Welcome everyone to our workshop meeting. I do not have a board president's report. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, I will have a much larger report downstairs tonight, but just a few reminders that we are on early dismissal this week and that we have our graduation scheduled for this Friday. I know it's going to be warm, so we are making some preparations for that. We always have a tent on the field for those that are perhaps handicapped or medically fragile. We're doing that. We met with OTPD and the Office of Emergency Management yesterday just to sort of combine resources. They are looking to help us with EMTs on standby, or even if we can get an ambulance on site like we do for our football games. It's a normal thing that we do every week for football games. So we're trying to add that to what's going on Friday. We also are looking at some misting fans and just regular fans. So but we've been out there in weather that is probably hotter than this. And it's a great day for our graduates, and it's nice to be on Corelli Field and really celebrate the end of a year. But board members, if you haven't had a chance, if you are joining us, there's a pass there for you. Make sure you have that.
Just one thing. So I remember one year when one of the graduations, I think it was when my daughter graduated, it was hot like you couldn't believe. And in the stands, a lot of people get there like a half hour or 45 minutes early to get seats and all that kind of stuff, and they run out of water. So I'm not sure if there's a way to figure out how to have something up there, or have people have water bottles or something for people.
So all of the graduates and like I said, the tent on the field, there will be water bottles, and then for the people in the stands, we have watering stations, and we've had that now for the last few years, sort of right up against the structure as you're heading towards those bleachers. You know, they'll have like the Gatorade jugs of ice water set up. The trainer will be there with that in little cups. So if anyone needs any water, they can always come down, and you'll see some security. You'll see, our facility staff that's helping shuttle students in the golf cart. Also, spectators who maybe need a rest. All they have to do is find one of those people, which will be very noticeable. We'll point you to the water and any other help you may need.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. School Business Administrator's report, Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple items to note. Today, the roofing contractor was out. We have the roofing projects starting next week on Dow and Wayside. Again, we're doing the entire roof at Dow, and we did a portion of the roof at Wayside last year, and we'll complete the entire roof this year. The contractor was out with the architect and the facilities director to review the sites again and to just identify some places for storage and those sorts of things. We have a long finance agenda on tonight. This is our June meeting. June 30th is the end of our fiscal year. So there's a number of items, sort of housekeeping items that have to be renewed for the coming year for 24 and 25. So that's why it's so long. Excuse me. I would note there's a number of donations on the agenda, and we'd like to thank those folks for their continued commitment to the district. And finally, I'd like to thank the IT department, maintenance, custodial grounds, our security officers, and our business department for all their hard work this year as we come to the end of this fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions, anyone? Okay, with that, we will move on to the action items. Mr. McCarthy.
One moment, please. I'd like to bring up items 5.1 through 5.3 for discussion. Is it 5.1?
No, it's 6.1.
6.1 through 6.3 for discussion.
6.1.
Just 6.1.
Just
Are
you gonna run something?
Oh, I'm in regular meeting, I apologize. I'd like to bring up item 6.1 for discussion.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments?
Second.
No, we're not moving anything here. All right,
Just wanna help
personnel
John
will be moved downstairs, correct, Ms. McGovern? All right, we will now move on to financial management, Mr. Weinstein.
Thank you, Madam President. So there's a bunch of things on here, a bunch of items to discuss. There's one I'm gonna like to start off with, which was around the 8.9, the resolution for budget. So I'd like to have a discussion around that. So after our meeting and just thinking about how that meeting went, I wasn't as comfortable as I hoped I would be. And because I think that we might be missing an opportunity based on where our finances look in the future and the opportunity that we have to increase the base that we have, right? And by the way, let me just separate out two things here, okay? One is, I'm going to bring this up in a discussion later. I really don't like the way this was presented to us. I don't like the method. I don't like how we went through all of our budgeting process. I don't like how we had to make these tough decisions and all that kind of stuff. However, you know, regardless of the type of lemonade you get, we're supposed to make lemonade, right? Whatever what type of lemons we get, we got to make lemonade, right? And so we're giving this opportunity to raise our base and fund the school district in a better way. And I think we should give it a little bit more consideration. So with that, I wanted to see if Jeff could kind of highlight the financial ramification of what it would mean to pass on this if we did not exercise it to its fullest. Because right now what we have on here is an item for roughly $617,000 that we kind of talked about in our last meeting. I think passing on the extra $500,000, in my opinion, is not a good idea, the extra 500. And I think that there's a compounding effect that $500,000 have. And so I asked Jeff and Kelly if they could, one, better explain what the ramification is of $500,000, because I was having conversations with people a little bit about what this base means of the $500,000, and also specifically identify what we would do with the extra $500,000. Oh, sorry. I thought I was a dealer in Lenox City or something. So Jeff, do you think you could kind of go over this? Thank you. And I think we wanted to do it here, so so we can kind of vet this out now between us in this work session, as opposed to doing it in regular meeting. So Jeff, let me hand it over to you.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Weinstein. So what I handed out was a listing of, if we were to move forward with the additional funding, what we would spend those funds on. We can look at that in a minute. And then just in terms of the impact of the additional funds and what they'd have over the next several years and what that looks like. So if we look at what the board approved initially before this legislation came out, we're looking at a base levy of almost $73.5 million. If we look at that over the next 5 years, and assume a 2% increase, we come up with the district collecting about $381 million over 5 years. If we take this additional $1.174 million, that would put us over the next 5 years collecting approximately $387 million over that time period. So you're looking at an increase over that time period, over those courses of 25, 26 through 29, with about $6.1 million additional that we would collect that would be available to the district for various projects and various initiatives. That's a significant number. When we don't know what the formula is going to look like going forward, it's difficult to project what it is that we'll get. We've talked at the last meeting and then at several other meetings about the state's formula and how it's based on sort of a model budget number for our students and for our staffing. And then the very next thing they look at is how can the local municipality, local township pay towards that money. As we know, property values have increased significantly over the past several years. What that means is the state will then be giving us less and less money because they're assuming we can pay more and more. So to give up that $6 million, I think is significant over the next 5 years, and something the board should consider looking at and perhaps moving forward with the full amount of the available funds to increase the tax levy. As we've also mentioned, we've had meetings with the county superintendent, the county business administrator. They've encouraged us to move forward with what's available. And in calls with other districts on the line, the indication and the message to them as well was to take the full amount of the funding that's available. So I've put together a list of items that we can utilize those funds for.
Before you go into that, is everybody understanding the math that we're trying to do here?
The $6.1 million delta, is that that is if we were to take 1.1 versus 6, or that is if we were to take 1.1 versus nothing?
It's 1.1 versus nothing, versus what we've already
So
approved.
if we calculate what it would be for 1.1 versus 6,
It'd be about half.
it would be about half? Okay. So it would be 3 million?
Thereabouts, yes.
Okay.
3 million over
5 years.
5 years, right? Right, 3 million over 5 years, correct.
Versus
Which is
6
like
million.
what percentage of our budget? 3 million over 7?
5%, 4.5%? Calculator is no faster than anyone.
4.1? 4.1?
So if the district were to move forward with the additional funds, superintendent and I discussed opportunities, things that were not funded in the budget going forward. We're looking at an additional ESL teacher or coach. We're looking at an additional reading program or reading intervention program for our ESL and special ed folks. Interventionist professional development for extending our Beyond the Day tutoring program to put additional funding into that program. We're looking at replacing door locks at TOIS. We're looking at doing some spot paving around the district. We're looking at adding the GPS system to the bus so we can track them more accurately. And when we get calls from parents, we know what to tell them in terms of where the buses are and when they can expect them. We're looking at 4 new buses now, 3 29-passenger buses and a 54-passenger bus, plus a maintenance vehicle. We talked about a maintenance vehicle as we went through our budgeting process and the need for the buses. We're also looking at replacing 2 boilers at TOIS. We replaced 3 this past school year. We do have one that's particularly old, and another one that is in need of replacement soon. So that would mean we'd have all new boilers at the intermediate school over the next year. And we're also looking at spending the final bit of funding on replacing the bleachers at Dow.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hastings?
The bus GPS system, that's for all the buses
That's for all the buses in our fleet, and that's software and equipment that goes on the bus.
And one more question. So Kelly, in your, Ms. Weldon, so you're really adding, you want to add back two individuals?
No, it's one. It's one with the flex, we prefer, again, this is in comparison to making the recommendation for the 600,000, which still has the intervention program and professional development and additional funding to support Beyond the Day tutoring services for students, 3 29-passenger buses and 2 boilers. So if we were to expand, as you suggested, what else would we, at the last meeting, what else would we spend that money on? We presented over the amounts, right? And we really went back and fine-tuned what we would prioritize. So that's the rest of the things on this list. Last meeting, we did show 2 positions, but the more we thought about it and the more we spoke with the county and the more we looked at our numbers and the feeling, as Mr. Hastings just said, that we could very well be cut once we know what the funding formula is going to look like moving forward. It does give me concern to add staff with this money. However, we are also really very close with our ESL teaching department. We have just enough teachers to cover the classes. The classes are not small. And if we were to have an influx of registrations, I feel that we would feel that, and we would, we'd have to address that. If we were to have a sudden withdrawal, students signing out, well, that's why I want a position that a person might do some periods of coaching general education teachers on how to better meet the needs of our ESL population, but also could serve as a teacher should we need to reduce class sizes in those areas. So it's one position, but a person who could do both things. So it would be a flexible position. That would be my recommendation as a staff aide.
Ms. Gilman.
To follow that up, Ms. Weldon, looking at 9.9, which is further ahead in our instruction, the multilingual learner 3-year plan. As I went through that and saw gaping holes of, what we will need, we have one bilingual, bicultural certified teacher for 239 students. Our ESL teachers are certified. A sheltered English instruction trained personnel? No, we don't have one. So putting this on, I know you're very cautious about adding one position, given the fact that we don't know.
Just to clarify, we do have teachers with that training, but it's not the full blow. We don't run a class of that
sheltered
program.
I wondered what that was.
Right.
I was
No,
not clear.
it's a model of instruction
Yes,
for ESL.
for ESL.
Right.
And just remembering that Ms. Villa Chavez's presentation of how that program is growing, I think it's very prudent for us to add this person, ESL teacher / coach, and hope that down the road, more grants become available to us, or the funding, because ESL is an area that is not going away. It's only going to increase.
Okay, I think what I want to do right now is just basically go around the board table and just get a feel for how everyone feels about the 1.17. We do have a resolution for tonight in regular for the 600, but if the board feels that they want to go for the 1.17, being that Mr. Hastings has given us this information, and just to make sure that we have we get it right on the agenda. So we'll start with you, Ms. McGovern, and then just go around the table so we get a feeling of what everyone wants to do.
I gotta start with me. No,
If I may just maybe say a few last points. Some things we said last week that I just want to make fresh in everyone's minds. And Mr. Hastings did say this, so I'm sorry to repeat some of his words, but we have often spoken around this table about the need to aggressively seek out revenue sources for this district. But then sometimes when faced with them, we're not comfortable with going for them for different reasons. And all of those are valid, right? We've debated those, I think, with real integrity and really listening and hearing our constituents and thinking about what is necessary for students and how we make this district the best possible district that we can make for every single student who walks through our doors, every single student, whether they've lived here their whole lives or they're new to us and they are learning the language and they have other needs. I think that we have always committed to working to create the best environment for these Spartans, and we need to keep doing that. And the funding piece of this is not easy. But this is an opportunity. I know late in the year, I know not on the schedule that we're used to. You pointed out, right? This is not the way we would want to have to handle this. This is not the way we would want to really give this maybe the credence or the time that it's worth, but this is the timeline. And I truly believe that we need to think through this decision and really try to set ourselves up for future growth. And if we find out that our aid is not going to be cut as much, or it really is too impactful to the taxpayer and we need to make adjustments, I commit to doing that work with you, to being fiscally responsible, to making cuts when we can make them, when they make sense for student programs. If there's something going on here that has always been there but is not yielding the benefit to our students that it once did, I'm looking at those things. I am looking for ways for us to condense where we can. But when given opportunities like this to expand our revenue, I do think we have to take a moment to look at, we pass this by, are we setting ourselves up to be so tight later on that there are certain things we cannot fix, that we don't have the foundation or the infrastructure to grow. So I just wanted to say, put that, fresh in your minds that, we support moving forward with the full amount, but we are also committed to looking for ways where we can be more efficient, where we can do things differently when those opportunities come forward. And if we're wrong about this aid cut, which we don't believe that we are, because the way our district is structured, we're not paying our fair share. Am I correct in saying that? I don't want to say anything incorrect. I yield to you, but I believe we'll be cut. I do. So I don't want to doubly cut ourselves by not taking advantage of a revenue source that is available now.
I appreciate that.
Mrs.
Appreciate your
Carlos, can
comments.
I ask a question
You
or two
sure
and
can.
comment? Mr. Hastings and Ms. Weldon, I remember when we were going over budget, there was a chart at some point that talked about the past years and whether we went to the full 2% or not. And we talked about, I know there were some years we didn't, right? We made decisions at that time for whatever reasons we made those decisions, right? But as you're talking, Ms. Weldon, we have to think about the long-term impact. And at those times, we made decisions for whatever reason, but now we are in a tighter and tighter spot because of the state funding, right? So even when we did this year's budget, I know we all had a good debate about where we felt we should go. We could have gone higher and we didn't, right? So, I've been trying to think through this, and my concern is we're getting signals from the state. We haven't gone to max in past years, which the compounding effect of that now years down the road is it's tighter, right? So all that to say is, I think the signals from the state are going to be pretty clear here when we look at per pupil funding and how they're looking at our community. And so we have to think about that carefully. I do think, just my opinion, as a group, we probably, after we get through this budget cycle, need to sit down and have a long-term discussion on where we'd like to see it go in the future and what are the pushes and pulls of the budget, and be more adept at having those conversations, but also to look back at the history and understand why we are where we are and what we can predict the best we can moving forward. Because it's a challenging conversation to do in quick snippets without honoring history. And again, I know why districts make choices in the past. I've sat at the table, I understand that. But when we went to 1.9 some years and we could have gone higher, and we went to whatever it was in past years and we could have gone higher, 8-10 years down the road, this is why we're still having this conversation.
Yeah, it's a little, just a little, one of the things that gets a little bit skewed here on all this stuff is, in past years, we had a lot of bank cap.
Yeah.
That helped us kind of get to that. So really in aggregate, we were always at what we thought was a legitimate max.
Yeah.
Right, so we were 1.9, and then we would have bank cap, and it would be kind of, right, so I think, I don't think I think, recently we might have passed on some opportunities for revenue, but I think we've been trying to balance it so that it stayed in a reasonable amount.
Right, and my only point is it's hard to make those decisions, and now we have to make this bigger decision.
Yes, I understand. The only thing about, a couple of things that are different about this one. So the one thing that's different about this is that the actual increase, right, we get, our taxpayers actually fund this directly, right? So this benefit goes directly with the dollars that our community is spending. It's not, they don't have to worry that it's going to some other school district or some other place, right? So that to me is somewhat helpful.
That's one way to phrase it. it's not 100% accurate, but it's one way to
Yeah,
phrase it.
right,
We're not requiring the entire state to fund our district.
correct.
Right, that, yeah, that can be viewed, you have to accept on the prognosis that the state has appropriately allocated funding elsewhere,
Yeah, let me finish my.
which I don't think is accurate. Well, you're speaking out of order yourself, so I'm just doing the same. You were not recognized by the board chair.
You may continue, Mr. Weinstein, go ahead.
So, and then the other aspect of this is that I think the one thing that you're right about is that when you look at the challenges of school districts in New Jersey, I don't believe that from a macro level, the state looks at Ocean Township as this school district that is so needy, right? I think that's
correct.
that's a problem.
They've actually told us to reduce our headcount.
That's a problem that we have, that we have to kind of, fess up to, right? We can't kind of hide from that, that's the situation, right? So I think, the way the math works, the idea of increasing our base, right, is probably an important aspect to do when we get that opportunity.
Okay, so it's already 6:30, 7:30,
7:30.
sorry. And we do need to move the meeting along, so I'm just gonna go around the table. You got a few extra minutes to think about it, so I'm gonna start with you.
No, so I would just say that I appreciate the things you have come back to us with on the first list and the second list of priorities. And I do think that with our increased rental properties sometimes our winter rentals a lot of times also bring in sometimes challenging students and challenging, not all, but there are some challenges of kids coming in for 1 year, leaving, and maybe not coming back. Just, and some of those coaching models and ESL, population increases a little bit in the wintertime, for our district. And so I appreciate that that's where we're spending our money on staff. If we are going to bring staff here, do staff. While I don't love the idea, I can understand your points and your vision, and I will support the 1.1.
Ms. Gilman?
I voted for it last time. I think it's a long-term investment in our district. I think that our administrators have worked hard to put this list together. I certainly don't want to undercut them. I also think that it was made pretty clear, if you read the emails that we received from not only staff members, but many residents, that they need things that we often can provide. And while this list might seem short in the long run, I think it will trickle down to our staff and they'll be able to do more. So yes, I support it.
Mr. Weinstein?
Yeah, first when I see the list here, I would have actually liked to have seen probably more staff involved. But I also understand that we don't know exactly how formulaically this whole thing is going to work out. So I think it probably is a good gap move for us to kind of figure this out. And I also know how hard it is when we get into a position where we're trying to figure out how to buy buses, which always seems to be like such a pain for us to do. So I think, all in all, so I wish we would have had, other positions here that may have helped some areas that we might be a little deficient in or feel that. But I can understand the thinking here so as not to put anybody in a bad situation later on. So I think this is a good way to go. So I would support that.
Mr. Schneider?
I still stand with my vote. I was not for a tax increase at this point. I appreciate the passion and the pitch behind it. I hate the phrase fair share, but I think in this case, the government's not putting in their fair share. And any further cuts from $5 million puts them at extreme risk for us not even having to need their money or services to run our school. So they put only 7% of state funding into our school and get up 100% say. So I'm against the tax increase at this point.
Mr. Dalton?
At this point, I support it.
Ms. Dam?
Just real quick, last time we polled and I couldn't get over kind of the same things as Jeff was saying, that I didn't appreciate how we were kind of being forced to make this very quick decision, not understanding where the money was going and all that. And I had a hard time getting over that. But now sitting with it, it's hard to say no for what this can bring to our school and our kids. So at this point now, I do support. If we're gonna vote yes for it, I believe we should just go all the way. So I think that we should be in support, or I am in support of the 1.1.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna support it.
Okay. I went for a whole week now, back and forth in my head, and I appreciate the information that you shared with us tonight. I feel that we both feel it is important that we take advantage of this for fear of what may come, that, you know, we may get blindsided for all we know and have to pay for years to come, just like we have these past 7 years. So I will support it as well. So it seems to me that the majority is for the 1.17. So we probably will need to change the way the vote will be read downstairs. Is that right, Mr. Hastings?
No, I believe someone should make a motion to adopt this
Okay,
I think
make a
1.1
motion to change.
7, and if this passes, we'll
Okay.
remove the other item. If it does not, we'll still have the other item for
So
consideration.
if it passes, just don't approve the one for 600,000, okay?
Got it.
All right, thank you.
Just one note, the process wise, I understand that we have to sell this. But I have a bit of a problem with us claiming whether or not we agree, because I personally don't agree with the position increase, but I don't think that that's my prerogative. So I just want to point that out to the board. Whether or not we agree with what we are saying to you, what do you need to run this district? And you are to come back to us, in my opinion, single individual's opinion, what you believe you need and what you do with that. I trust that it will be appropriate to the district. So I don't know, just as a board, I think we should get away from you selling it to us. I trust that you're gonna do the right thing and that you're gonna put the money where it needs to go. Which is also why I don't believe in approving this, is because, you know, when we originally discussed whether or not to do 2.8 or 3.5, I was told that we could run this district at 2.8. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to give color to, I don't personally, and the rest of the board can disagree with me, I don't desire to see or to be sold on what you need. I know that for the district it's important, and maybe I'm wrong and that we need to do it for them, but I just want to be clear. I trust that you're going to allocate it appropriately based on what you said initially, Kelly, and my indecision to support this has nothing to do with a lack of trust in your ability to put it forward.
And I can respect what you're
Yeah.
saying.
As
You know,
can I, that point about the taxes
Yeah.
and that discussion, that is real. This was new information, but, you know, I think your point is taken. Given me
Appreciate
a
it.
lot of time to reflect on that
Appreciate it.
point.
It is good to know, though, from the both of you, you know, how you feel about certain things, to kind of direct the board so that we know, you know, what you're thinking, what is important.
I think in this
Because
year,
we don't know, you know, as 9 people from the community, we really don't know the information that you know.
I think there are some very, very good things in here that we really need. I think the list maybe is not as exciting as you would maybe spend $1 million with if you got a shopping spree for $1 million. But I want to be very responsible to an unknown factor and what that will mean for us. And some of the other difficult conversations that we've had around budget as a group. And that we need to get some one-time high price items that we struggle to get into our budget, buses, things like that, to help, I think, fortify our foundation a little bit with this opportunity. Because if it does go away or we cannot continue to grow, we have, you know, taken care of a few big things that we've struggled to do in the last few years.
Keep it quick. Mr. Weinstein, please.
Well, just a couple of things that John was saying. So one is, I don't think there was any doubt that we were gonna have a budget that we'd be able to run the school district with if this didn't occur, right? Okay, so I totally agree with that. And I agree with the thing of the process of saying we were gonna have a school district that we could run okay, right? I think that's probably, you know, very accurate, right? I think that there are some school districts can benefit from more funds, others probably not. We're probably one of those districts that does benefit when you give us more funds. We figure out how to refurbish our buildings, we figure out how to do roofs, we figure out how to, you know, get buses, we figure out how to take things that in our district may be aging or maybe becoming obsolete. And so I think that one concept that seems to rear its head periodically, is that we have a lot of assets. You know, we have this building and we have the land and we all have the other thing, right? But we also have a lot of liability. We have older buildings, older facilities, older this, older that. No one seems to take that equation, both sides to it. So when we're given the opportunity to figure out how to get money that we can figure out how to actually be prudent and smart with, right? If we weren't smart with the money, then I would say, okay, shame on us, right? But every time we have funds that are available to us, we seem to do it on either things that are innovative or things that are helping us take things that are going to be broken and figure out how to make those work. So I think it's really also taking the funds, because I think we're very judicious on what we do with those funds.
All right, so let's go back to the rest of finance, if you wouldn't mind
Oh, sure.
going through that.
Well, I think,
Questions?
Jeff, did you?
Yeah.
did you
Sure,
wanna-
can I
did you
just
wanna
point
bring
out
up
a few
things?
things?
Yeah,
I'd just like to point out item 8 and 10, our student lunch program, the pricing for next year, there are no increases in the pricing. I'm sorry.
Can you just say it one more time?
Loud for the people in the
Louder.
back.
Yeah, so everyone can hear it.
There is no, item 8.10 is our lunch program for next year, and there is no increase in our lunch prices.
Thank you.
And then also, we had a bid out for electrical upgrades for our field lighting. That bid was opened on Friday, and the award of that bid will be on the agenda this evening.
Was the field lighting that was proposed to be $400,000, or is that separate? Am I mixing something up?
Yes, so when we discussed field lighting over the past several months, we've talked about $400,000 to $500,000 for the entire job.
Okay.
We utilized a national co-op to get the best pricing we could on the equipment. There's some nuances with using that co-op where we can't have them install. Their initial pitch to us was $450,000 to $500,000. We had to break it up because we couldn't do it that way. We're not allowed to do it that way. Last month, we approved the purchase of the lighting equipment for around $418,000 $418,000. This is now to award a company to now
To
install
put
it.
it in, okay, got it, thank you.
Is there any other questions on anything in finance? Anyone have anything? No? All right, let's move on to instruction. Ms. Gilman?
9.1 to 9.10 for discussion. It looks like we have a new course.
Yes, I just want to point
That's
out on finance, and I don't know the agenda item, we're accepting a grant. Double check real quick while we're talking here. We're accepting the computer science high school expanding computer science high school courses grant. And then in instruction, we are asking for approval of a new course and also approving the hours to write the curriculum for the new course, which will be funded through the grant that we just earned, which I believe was about $32,745. So I'd like to thank Dr. Morgan, Mrs. Kazuba, Ms. Leahy, who really led this grant application and trying to get this set. Also, Mrs. Hagerman played a part in this as well, and this helps to go to expand the course offerings in our Spartan School of Technology, and this will really be a cybersecurity focused class.
Mr. Weinstein?
so is there no existing course around this that we're able to just use?
No,
There is no.
What do you mean?
There is no
Cybersecurity?
curriculum.
in our
Cyber-
schools.
No, not in our school, in another school district or.
Well, part of the work will be perhaps looking at other samples, but no, I mean, we don't just take someone else's. We do write our own. But we look at resources. I mean, I don't want to speak for Dr. Morgan.
Yes.
She's gonna lead this process, but usually,
We actually met today and we're gonna look at, I think they said Red Bank Regional may already have a course in existence.
Good.
So Ms. Hagerman and Ms. Leahy will be reaching out.
Great.
I know that it's up and coming in colleges and universities, right?
cybersecurity has been, it has been around for some time and,
It's a high,
It's a big jump.
it's a big
Yeah.
job. And there's a lot of positions open for people who have this type of training. So for our high school students to get this at the high school level, and I think we're gonna partner with Haley Dickinson to get college credit. So I think it'll be great for the students.
and it will be another offering in the Spartan School of Tech, just
Wonderful.
grateful.
That's great.
I have one question on the 9.5 PD. So it looks like we're sending our high school teachers for AP training, virtual training. Was there another one on here? English for Lang Lit?
There was just some adjustments, I believe, that needed to be made, so at this point, we're approving these.
But there is no training for Language Lit? That's
No,
a-
there is, but there,
Oh.
at this point, we're ready to approve these, and there was a change there that needed to be made, I
Yeah,
believe,
because
so.
I remember looking at the agenda last Friday. Okay, because that's an important area, that's a,
No, we're not dropping it, just
Okay.
needed, just needed to take a look again about where it was being offered and if that was the best option.
that's needed training, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Construction? All right, negotiations. That was discussed in executive session, so we'll move on to policy. Mrs. Gill.
Yes, 11.1, this is our second reading of the revised regulation on reporting student progress. Any
Yes,
comments?
which was just based on the presentation you all heard last week from our elementary principals. And last week, 2 weeks ago was first reading, this is the second reading, and it'll be on tonight, the regular for a vote. It was just that one minor change.
Questions? No? Okay. Is there any old business from the board? Workshop, any new business from the board? All right, at this time, we will take any public comment on any item. Mrs. Conway?
We have no virtual commenters. If you can hold one moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. There are no commenters in the auditorium either.
Thank you, Mrs. Conway. All right, I'd like motion to adjourn workshop.
Motion.
Can I please have a second?
Second.
All right,